We continue with our guests, Edward Lawson and Representative Robert K. Dornan. And before we continue with our phones, Representative Dornan, I asked you a question about who's going to decide.
Sonia, I watch your show. I know you're a thoughtful person. I beg you and your thoughtful audience to read in this week's Newsweek George Will's piece on how this whole debate is crippled, including right now, because we cannot discuss the words of Andrew Dice Clay or of 2 Live Crew. I've watched your show use explicit medical language for genitalia. If you want to start it, fine, I'll accept it, but I'll just use genitalia. 2 Live Crew speaks of ripping the walls of female genitalia and refers to women as the street language you talked about and or languages for female dogs. Now, let me be specific. The Blue Ribbon Panel, when people want tax dollars to support Clay, which he hasn't asked for yet, or 2 Live Crew, which hasn't asked for it yet, or the late Mapplethorpe, or Serrano urinating on a picture of the Savior, then we are the Blue Ribbon Panel in Congress, just when it involves tax dollars. For every other community, it's a jury of peers. No Star Chamber, no Blue Ribbon Panel, open courtroom as we see the scene for the female jogger in New York. For the first time in my 57 years, a crowd outside attacking viciously the victim who will never physically be the same in her life.
Let's take a call, and then I'll get back to you, Ed, in just a moment. Let's go to Harry in Florida. He's been waiting patiently. Hello, Harry.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, Mr. Dornan, and
Yes,
you
sir.
two from Los Angeles.
Yes, so that's Newsweek. George Will, back page, this week. Read it.
Some 216 years ago, some people in powdered wigs decided something for all of us that never will change.
Right.
And that is that the politicians or leaders will not affect the private sector.
Well, unless you're abusing children or beating up your wife or engaging in arson or all the crimes starting with Mosaic law down to the laws that we pass every day, and we'll pass some today, and the Supreme Court will rule on them later if somebody finds it offensive. No, you don't even have the private ability to beat your dog or abuse your cat.
Mr. Lawson, is there nothing that should be censored?
Let me make one point before I comment on that. You asked our distinguished and honorable congressman a question, which is, who should the Blue Ribbon Panel be? I think his answer is indicative of the way that people avoid dealing with a direct answer and the way that the people who are most vociferous in saying that there's a crisis use this to simply cover up their own shortcomings. I still don't understand the man's answer. He said a number of things about people receiving tax money and then listed all of these people as not receiving tax money. He talks about the very
I listed some that don't, some that do.
The very, very obviously emotional issue of somebody being raped and being in a court in New York. But I'm saying that this kind of political hyperbole, this kind of exciting the electorate, is not an intelligent examination of a very fundamentally and deeply rooted question.
Mr. Lawson, you're a lawyer.
The second point, which is what you're asking, is should there be censorship? Yes. I am an avid believer in choice. I am a pro-choice person. Each and every individual American should retain the right to censor what he sees, what he does not want to see, what his family, what his children want to see. But there is none among us who is so enlightened by our own personal God that we have the right in the realm of common sense to force that decision on anyone else, and no one constitutionally has that right to
then why do
force
we have
their
laws?
beliefs on others.
Aren't you a lawyer? Why do we have laws? You're not a performer. You're not an artist. You're a lawyer. If you were an artist and you had an obscene act like this white, male, tall, good-looking, probably raised a Christian, Andrew Dice Clay, and you did ask for federal dollars, wouldn't I have a right as a congressman to get on the House floor and say, go get your own money?
That's not the issue, sir. Here again, you're decoying. You are leading these individuals away from the actual issue. The issue is whether the Constitution should, in fact, be used as a bludgeon to force people whom you do not agree with to agree with you, to agree with your religious beliefs, to say what you want said, to read what you want to read, or to perform what you want to perform. The tax issue is a subordinate and smaller issue.
No, it's not. Edward,
the question is one of freedom of expression.
You finish your
and apply it to
Let's
the
give Representative
Dornan,
let's give him 30 seconds, Edward, in all fairness.
Edward, the reason Sonia's doing this program, and she'll tell you this, a big part of this debate that's brought it to the floor of Congress is the National Endowment for the Arts aspect. Serrano, Maplethorpe, this new Judy Chicago exhibit at the bankrupt District of Columbia University. This is part of it. Then the other part of it is the Florida laws being applied against 2Live Crew, and Alabama and Texas and other states saying don't come here, or actually what they said was change your act. And 2Live Crew is caving into that. Are they caving into vicious censorship so they can make even more money? Of course not. They're adapting themselves to community standards.
Gentlemen, I would like us to stop right here. I never thought in a moment that we would really resolve this, but rather have an opportunity to bring forth as many voices as we could. But Representative Dornan, before you go back in, there may very well be a vote going on right now or about to be concerning Barney Frank. I wonder if you would just tell us what kind of...